Well, to unpack that address, Dr. Andrew Smith joins us now. He's the director of the University of New Hampshire Survey Center. Dr. Smith, great to have you with us on the program today. I think what was notable in that speech was, something his second term has largely lacked, which is restraint. It actually remained, rather on brand with Donald Trump's messaging since taking office. Your first impressions?
I thought the first part of the speech was actually kind of slow and boring and surprising for a Donald Trump speech, but he seemed to gather steam as he went along, and certainly by the time he started attacking Democrats for their positions on illegal immigration, he was back to the Donald Trump of the campaign trail. So it wasn't a typical speech in that there wasn't the long laundry list of things to do. It was more a list of accomplishments.
Now, he painted a rather rosy picture of the American economy, but opinion polls do not reflect the sentiment, does it? I mean, is his speech likely to have struck a chord with U.S. voters struggling to pay their bills and make ends meet, especially as, he provided no new ideas on housing or healthcare, which were the two defining issues of his midterm campaign?
I don't think that it's going to sway many people one way or the other. His supporters are locked into him. They're going to go and support whatever he supports. Republicans in Congress are still doing that same thing. We'll see what happens after the midterm elections. And Democrats aren't going to be swayed by anything that Trump says either. So I think this is not doing anything to try to build bridges between the parties or look for bipartisan solutions to some of the problems that America has. But this is more of a matter of you're standing with me, you're standing against me, and lining up the troops for battle in November.
So around, half of Democrats skipped the State of the Union address. They held counter events while that was being held. We also saw, some moments of clashes between Trump and the Democrats during his speech, as we just saw in that report earlier. What have the Democrats' reactions been to the speech?
Well, I think that they were muted in the room. The one sign that was held up by Representative Green was the most obvious thing. A few shouts from the audience, which seems to be kind of the thing to do now after going back to the Obama one of Obama's State of the Union speeches. That's getting to be de rigueur, but I don't think there was the kind of anger. And I think that's probably Trump was trying to goad the Democrats really into making a lot of statements, really trying to get their goat there, so to speak. And I don't think he really succeeded.
You mentioned just earlier that Trump's State of the Union speech did no favors to, kind of bridge the chasm between Republicans and Democrats. What does that say about, the deep divisions that exist within the U.S. population, especially that bridge between Republicans and Democrats?
Well, those divisions aren't going away anytime soon. I think that's the short answer. And remember, when most people don't watch the State of the Union address, but they hear about it. They hear about it through the media sources that they choose to listen to. And I bet today we're going to hear very, very different representations of what Trump said by more left-leaning news sources and by more conservative news sources. So I think that what happens after the speech is more important, and that will just go on to reinforce these differences between the two parties. The antagonism there is real. There's really not a lot of common ground, even on issues where there ought to be. But this is the politics we're in today, and I think that Trump thinks this works for him.
So he suffered a major fallback after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled last week that large portions of the tariffs he announced last year were illegal. But in his address, he said tariff revenues could one day replace U.S. income tax. This is Trump essentially doubling down on his defeat.
Well, I think that he's still pushing tariffs. He's got some historical evidence to say that throughout the 18th and 19th century, tariffs funded most of the United States. But we live in a different economy now, obviously, and tariffs have costs as well. So he's pushing tariffs again. He likes the idea. The Congress doesn't seem willing under Republican leadership in the Congress to push back and emphasize that it is the Congress that has the power to set tariffs. It's in the Constitution. But until Congress wants to do something to push back against tariffs, I think we're going to be in this situation. Trump still has a couple other legal angles that he can use to implement tariffs. He's got a 150-day tariff going on right now, but I don't think that anytime soon we'll be able to replace the income tax. I think politically that would just be way, way, way too hard of a lift to do.
Right, and he largely stuck to domestic policies, although he did address some foreign policy issues about an hour into his speech as well. But what was notable was that he didn't clarify his policy towards Iran.
I was surprised. I thought there might be something, and even I thought there might be an announcement that the troops were going into Iran during the speech as a way to distract from any negative things that people might say about him during it. But the Iranian issue is the one I think that it's still way up in the air. It's something that he can't take care of quickly, like his invasion of Venezuela. If Iran was that easy to take care of, somebody would have done it over the last several decades. But I think the Iranian issue is the one to pay attention to now. It's the one that involves the most of our allies and enemies. And it's the one that I think will be central to what happens between now and November.
I think it's also worth noting that, there was no mention of the killing of Americans in Minneapolis at the hand of ICE agents or the Epstein files at all. On the foreign policy front, he made no mention of Ukraine or Greenland. Was this intentional, in your opinion, the fact that he eluded these major topics ahead of the midterms in November?
Not surprising at all that he didn't say anything about the Epstein files. I think he'd be more than happy if he never hears the word Epstein again. The Greenland thing, I think that's probably going nowhere, and it's not a time to do it here in the State of the Union. He's stuck with the things that he thinks got him to the position that he's in now, and he's just re-emphasizing those talking points. So it's not surprising that he hasn't tried to speak to what Americans or what journalists think are the important open questions out there.
So just looking ahead then at the midterms, would you say that this was a speech that's likely to influence the political trajectory of Trump's second term? I mean, do you think it's made a difference with his MAGA base and even shore up support with independents?
I don't think so. I mean, historically, speeches like this are short-term things. There's going to be something that comes along in the next week or two that's going to change people's focus from this speech to something else. You mentioned foreign policy issues. Boy, there's a lot of them out in the world today. So I don't think this is really going to change things. If he does one thing, it lays out what the Republican agenda is and what their strategies are going to be for the midterm election. But November's a long time away, and there'll be many, many other things that happen between now and November that are going to have a greater influence on the vote. And the vote in November isn't going to be about attracting independents or Democrats to come over and vote for Trump. The big thing is, how do you motivate Republicans to get out and show up? Historically, in midterm elections, the president party loses seats in the Congress, loses seats in the states because they've done their job in the presidential election year, and they kind of go home in the midterm. So what Trump has to do, and what Republicans have to do if they want to win, is really motivate Republican voters to get out and vote in November. And that, I think, is what his aim was today, is to build that motivation.